everyone, welcome to Youth Uncut, a show that gives youth a voice and a chance for youth to discuss the things that mean most to them. My name is Coach Devon Buchanan. I'm founder and executive director of the Focus Youth Network. The Focus Youth Network is a nonprofit organization that provides innovative, educational, and recreational activities for youth and their families. Today, I'm so excited because it's not often you have an opportunity to interview someone that you feel is equally as passionate, if not more passionate about the same things that you are. And so I'm so excited to interview today, Akayla Brown. How are you today, Akayla?
Hi, I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I've just a little background. I'm always kind of peering and looking in the background to see who's moving and shaking around the city. And for me, a couple years ago, I came across this profile and I saw this young lady who was doing, I feel like it was a book bag drive, or not a book bag drive. I can't remember.
I'm like, yeah, well, I've done
And,
those too. So I
yeah,
don't
there was,
remember the exact event, but
yeah, there were so many. And I remember following, I said, okay, she seems like fairly young. And I don't remember what grade, but if it was a few years ago, you're a senior now. So you might have been a freshman or sophomore at that time.
hmm
And so I began thinking, wow, this young lady who has passions about things.
yes.
I clicked the little follow button and honestly, I was new to Instagram at that time. So I didn't really know what I was doing. So I didn't
hmm
follow. And I guess honestly, as you got older, you again started to find your stride. And so I would love to
Yeah.
know a little bit more about you, share what school you go to, some of your interests, and we'll certainly get into your nonprofit.
All right, great. So, like, do you want me to just start talking about me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Hello everybody. I am Akayla Brown. I'm the founder of Dimplez for Dayz Incorporated. I began my nonprofit when I was 13 years old, and just as he said, the older I got, the more passion that came with my nonprofit. It was always, me wanting to help people. Like I never really fully at a younger age knew what I wanted to do. So when I came up with the idea, like I'm ready to help people, mommy, and I want to make an impact. Like that's what I wanted to do. Had that serious conversation with my mom. It was like, yeah, you are a little bit younger, but this is the time to take off. And that's when I took off. So now I'm 18 years old. I'm 5 years into the nonprofit life and I love it. Yeah, we started off with just regular book bag drives, and that's all initially I thought it was going to be, but it's so much more than that. Like now, a couple years later, I have a workforce development program where I'm able to incentivize 50 youth, helping them with their resumes if they need apparel for their interviews, etc. This like, oh my goodness, I'm really very much getting into the field. So just to see like I'm making these type of strides and I'm really expanding and growing and I'm really, being able to have the passion behind things that I am passionate about, it's life. Like that's my lifestyle and I love it so much. Like, I couldn't ask
Awesome.
for a better one.
Awesome, awesome. And so, again, you talked about Dimples for Days. And so, where did you come up with that name? I'm sure there's
hmm
a bit of something behind that name.
Yes. So again, I started my nonprofit when I was 13. It's also just happens to be around the time where I started to become a little bit more popular on Instagram. And my nickname around Philly was Dimples. So
Mhm.
I'm very, very big on if I'm gonna have something that's mine, it needs to be a reflection of me. Therefore, my nickname was Dimples. I felt like Dimples for Days, and it went right with our mission. Every single Dimples for Days event, of course, we want to call out, the family, the youth, the community. But at our events, you just need to know that you're going to be leaving these events with a smile on your face. And what do you see when you smile? You see dimples. I have really deep dimples. Everyone called me Dimples. So it's like Dimples for Days. It goes right with the name. It goes right with the mission. And people need to know that when you come to a Dimples for Days events, not only are you going to leave with the resources, you're not going to leave with it's going to be fun, it's going to be filled, but you're going to leave with a smile. Like that's what our events ensure all the time. So it was definitely way more than like her nickname is Dimples, and now her nonprofit is Dimples. No, it's more so like when you come to a Dimples for Days event, you're going to definitely leave with your resources, but a smile is going to just be plastered on your face because it's going to be a fun filled day. Simple.
That's dope. That's dope. And
hmm
I love that thought because, oftentimes I feel like it's got to start with that smile. It's got to start with the
Yes.
into the community and
hmm
starting with the positivity. And then once you're building that relationship with people, then you can start to offer resources, which are, again,
Definitely.
doing really well
And I
with.
felt like with our nonprofit too, it also started with like the youth. That was something I was just really, really big on since I was younger too. I always loved to show that it was the youth that would be the ones to build back up the community. Therefore, if you ever came to a Dimplez for Days event or you ever come to one, you'll see that it's the youth controlling the events. Like simple. When we do our book bag drops, it's the youth packing the book bags, setting up the tables. If we're feeding the homeless, it's the youth taking the orders, setting up those tables, etc. When we did our pop-up shop recently, that was this year, it was a youth entrepreneur pop-up shop. I'm very, very big on just showing like the youth are the power and they will be the power, etc. So
Uh,
not only will you leave with a smile, but you'll leave with seeing like, oh, these youth are decent. Because I love to show that Generation Z is the generation that will be the generation that makes change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I truly believe that. Well, I want to make sure that I come back to that. And if I don't get back and I give you the little warning, I want you to remember, I want you to say to me, Gen Z, so I can come right.
Okay, I got you.
What I want to say. Okay. So the one thing I wanted to talk to you about was, for me, my passions around my nonprofit are rooted in some of my struggles, some of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
know that I went through in my life and that either are positive or negative, but either way, they're things that have pushed me to do a little bit more. Can you talk about some of the things that you've kind of gone through or some of those really integral things in your life that push you to do this, but also be
Yeah.
in other areas?
Yeah, no. When I was younger, I definitely went through like a phase where me and my family we were homeless. It was like, once we became not homeless anymore and we were still having, of course, like not the best, but just a better background, it was like, okay, I don't have the most, but with the little that I do have, I remembered that feeling of like what it was to go through that. And I'm like, if I can create any type of change or just be any type of assistance to my community, that's just what I always like to do. I never really seen myself working for anybody. I was always a person like the only people that deserves me to like work for them is my community, is to create that change. And that's just something I was always interested in. So like, even if I didn't go through like the homeless struggles, I feel like at the end of the day, I still would have been very much into the nonprofit world. It's just I got a story to tell too, just like everybody else. I'm not about to sit around and tell my story too much because I'm more so focused on creating a change now. Like we're here, it happened. Not the proudest of like that past, but it's not something I could have controlled. But you know what I am proud of? I'm proud that I'm able to come back into my community. I'm able to help with that change. Able to help with if kids need hot spots, I can give them hot spots. Transportations, I can give them transportations. If they're having problems at home, I can help with that. And the fact that I'm being able to do that at a young age, where at one point in time I was at a younger age just sitting homeless, and I'm not anymore. That's where my happiness stems from. I can't imagine my life any different, like at all.
Listen, that's true inspiration. And like, I think back and like I said, we think back on the struggles and it's really
Yeah.
overcome those things and look forward. And I think it's good. Some people, and it's all I think in your
I
perspective.
feel like, yeah, my struggles, they play a major portion as to my story today. Like I said, I got a story to tell also. So like I wouldn't have asked for a different story at all. At
Yeah.
all.
Absolutely. Good for you. Good for you. So let's talk about high school, right? Like a lot of the people, the kids that I'm going to that are going to see this are going into high school coming up.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have apprehensions about going to high school, particularly in Philadelphia, just because of the selection process and just I think a lot of the unknowns. Can you talk to
Yeah, I can even remember back into my eighth grade days. I was very much scared of the high school selection process because I knew I didn't want to end up in a neighborhood school, and I definitely did want to go to like one of the special admission ones. But since like younger, I was never the best at test taking. Like up until this day, I cannot take a SAT, PSSAs. Those just aren't my things. But if it's something I need to learn and I'm required to learn, oh, you're going to see me perform excellent. I can do a presentation like the back of my hand, talking, anything else but
Mhm.
those standardized tests. So it's like now when I want to go apply to the Centrals, the Columbus, the Bodines, etc., only school that gave me a chance was the high school I ended up at, and that's Bodine High School for International Affairs. And it's like, at first it was like that was my second choice, but even before I was like, I didn't even really want to go to Bodine. Like my top choice had always, like my dream school was Central. So I remember even when I got that denial, like my heart was low key broken because it's like, this is where I thought I belonged. This is where I thought I needed to be to, be somebody, to, I knew I wanted to be something. I knew I wanted to be something big. So I'm like, I needed to be in the best of the best. I knew Central was the best of the best. And it's like, or Masterman, etc. And it was like the fact that like, that denial hurt me. But it was like, okay, I take like I'm the type of person that I go with the flow also. Like I don't dwell on my losses too much because at the end of the day, I feel like everything is in God's plan. If this is my story, then again, that's my story, and I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna run with it. So Bodine being the only high school that did give me that chance, the only high school that invested their time into me, I felt like that's one of the best decisions, and I'm so happy that I didn't get into anywhere else other than that school because I honestly felt like that was the school I needed to be at. Just around my peers, I went to a predominantly Black high school. Therefore, that Black on Black friendly competition of always having my peers want to be the best of the best in the class, and I'm always trying to be the best of the best. So it's like, oh my goodness, it's people just like me coming from the same type of struggles that I come from, going back to the same neighborhoods that I go to, but we getting into the school building every day, grinding the same, fighting the same, achieving the same type of things, wanting to be the type of best. And it's like those other high schools couldn't do that because they weren't predominantly Black, how Bodine was. So it was
Yeah.
like that's when I really knew that I fell in love with my high school. And especially like once my nonprofit began to grow a little bit in high school and I had my African American peers always there to support me. And it was like I'm in the place I needed to be. I'm happy that's the only school that took a chance on me because now I can take a chance on you and just showcase how great of a high school that school is. And for those that are scared of that second stage of life going into high school, you have to understand that denial is a portion of life. Become comfortable with it, start to accept it, learn to love it because sometimes it's that no, like you needed that door to close for another one to open. And that's just something I always had to recognize too. Like even when it came time for the applying for colleges, like I had to go through denial again with the Ivy Leagues. It's like, yeah, I needed that no for my HBCU, yes, and I know where I need to be, and I go with the flow with a lot of things, but at the end of the day, my consistency, my hard work, and my dedication to the things that I'm dedicated and loyal to, never high, and therefore I'm always going to end up where I need to be. Simple.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's amazing, and I don't, you really hitting people with a lot of motivation. I'm very fortunate to be able to have you be a speaker for our eighth grade graduation of youth,
Yes. Oh my goodness, I would have did
which
that. Like,
Akayla is right down the street from Bodine. Like that's crazy. We have I think two students going to Bodine this year, and so it's certainly an honor. And so what I want to do is, as you're going into college, they're going into high school. Can you talk about some of the things that you overcame in high school, kind of during that time? Whether it be grades or maybe even
mm-hmm.
friends. That
Yeah,
social
nah,
aspect.
my biggest thing was for me, I already know. It wasn't friends. I was always a great person with people. It was more so probably procrastination. Like, don't get me wrong, smart, super, super smart. I'm talking about top of the class smart. I think I was number 3 out of my full class.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super smart. But just because I was smart doesn't mean that I was like smart about how I went about my work. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was one of those smart people that was like on the way to school. I got a sandwich in one hand, my pencil in my other hand, getting my homework done on the trolley on the way to school. My advisory teacher, his name's Mr. Dayz. That was last year. He used to be like, homework is to be done at home. Why are you doing your homework at school? And I used to be like, yo, mind your business. Like I'm getting my work done. That's the only thing that matters. But like as I'm getting older and really transitioning into like this thing that is called adulthood now, I'm starting to notice like the procrastination lifestyle is not the one to live and or become accustomed to. Like I don't really like to let a lot of people know, but I do suffer from epilepsy, and I figured this out in high school, literally like the first month of me going into high school.
Mm-hmm.
So procrastination was never really my friend, and it was like procrastinate, like my seizures are literally turned on from stress, lack of sleep, etc. So it
Yeah.
was like it was at certain points like, girl, you putting schoolwork over your own health, and that's not something that could be done. And it would, for me, it would be like, that's what's going to have to be done because, yeah. But just overall, don't procrastinate. Like, motivation is short. That's very short. Like, you could be motivated about something one day, wake up not motivated the next day. At the end of the day, your work still has to be done, and that's just it. If you wait to the last minute and or you always put something off to the last minute, one, you're not even able to give it and or put your best foot forward. You're not really able to, analyze how you want to go about it, how you want to talk about it, etc., how you even want to carry it within your work. And that's something I had to learn, because it was like, I'm sitting here and I'm giving them half the efforts and I'm still doing amazing. All I can imagine at certain times was, imagine if I put all my 2 feet in, if I wasn't waiting to the last minute. I was number 3. I could have been number 1, but it was the procrastination that held me back. And that it took me time to like really sit back and be like, why are you accepting and or allowing yourself to wait for greatness when that's your greatness? Like, honestly, at the end of the day, I had to come to terms like, you are in control of everything you want to be in control of your life. And that's what, like, everything you want to manifest, everything you want to do, that's for you to do and that's for you to control. Don't ever put that off for anything else. Because what was I putting it off for? Instagram, TikTok, all sorts of things that wasn't going to put any money in my pocket, that wasn't going to elevate me to that next level or keep me in my prime how I deserve to be. Don't wait for that. You keep going, you keep pushing. Life, you live every day, you die once. That's one of my sayings too. Therefore, live your life every day being the best you that you could be, and worry about vacations, all of that. That's going to come naturally. Do what you got to do now. Simple. That's how I go about it.
So now you're a senior, and you have now. I think I read somewhere, and I don't want to jack your number up. 2.4 million, 2.5. $2.5 million in scholarship money?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, yes.
So let's talk about the process behind that. Like, because it doesn't just, people not just giving money, like there's work and grind that goes behind that. Can you talk about?
No, honestly, I remember, like, my mom is really my right hand. Every single interview I do, you'll hear me always give my mother a compliment. That college process, that application process was probably, again, you heard me say I'm a procrastinator. Oh, my mom wasn't letting me procrastinate with that at all. I'm talking about, she had me filling out an essay, at least 3 essays a day, no matter what. And it was like, I'm 18 at this point. I turned 18 in November. So she didn't care about none of that. I'm 18. Stop telling me what to do. Oh, no, I'll take your phone. Like, it was like, you guys either going to do these essays or I'm taking your phone. You're not going out. Like, my mom was holding me accountable. And that's something I also feel like people got to understand. Accountability is like your best friend. You got to hold yourself accountable. And like, even when I didn't want to hold myself accountable, because the pandemic, like the whole school system, that took a toll on me. I'm used to being around my friends. I'm used to like having people push me to even want to go harder. Now I'm in my room every day, just laying down, going to school. It was definitely a whole difference. Therefore, like, when it came time for that process, I remember me not being motivated at all and being like, yeah, I'm gonna go to college, of course, but I don't feel like filling out all these applications, scholarships, etc. Even when I heard, like, the biggest thing right now for me is I got the Gates scholarship. Even when I heard about the Gates scholarship, it was like, I got to fill out another essay. Like, I don't care about this. Like, honestly, like, And then I think by that point, I had a full scholarship to Rosemont, but my mom was like, no, you don't even want to really go there. Like, keep filling out your scholarships, keep going, keep like being great. Like, I didn't raise a mediocre daughter. I raised somebody that's going to excel, that's going to be not better, but be the best at whatever you put your mind to be. And like, always was pushing me, no matter if I wanted to be pushed or not. And I had that. I had those conversations about my next plans, what I wanted to do next, how I was going to execute it, etc. And like, that was a big part into like my scholarships process and my college process in general, because it was like, this is what you got to do. This is your future. This isn't ours. So even though procrastination wasn't like my closest friend, procrastination had to go when, again, it came time for my next step in my life. And this is going to be what defines me. I had to put my all into it. Therefore, even if it was like scholarship after scholarship after scholarship, I'm applying to it all. I don't have money to be paying for these loans and debt, and that's just it. I already knew that I wasn't about to sit here and try to mess myself up with a whole bunch of college debt, and or just be like, I talk to people, they be like 46 talking about I'm still paying college debt. And I'm looking like I wasn't going to be the 46-year-old still paying college debt. So whatever I needed to do to figure out how to like not do that. And my mom didn't have college debt either. So like I come from a family, we're so far. Two of us, we both got our full scholarships. We gonna wait to see what the rest of us doing. But like
Yeah.
no, college debt was not something that we were really paying. So it was like I knew I wasn't going to be the one. It was like, man, what did I need to do to get there? And if that's me filling out all these scholarships, and I was filling out all those scholarships because that's the money that I needed to go to school. And I'm very interested. If nobody else is going to invest in me, I'm gonna invest in myself. And if all I had to invest is a couple essays into a scholarship, then I got time.
Absolutely.
I got time.
I gotta tell you, you gotta make that time. People don't time is money. And if you can translate and just turn some of your time and some of your intellect,
Yes.
why not? Why not?
Exactly. Like even if it was a small minor scholarship, that's a small minor difference to what I was going to have to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I heard you say you had applied to some Ivy League schools, and then you had the opportunity to go to a HBCU. So
I
were
never wanted to go to the Ivy League schools,
oh, you
if
never
I'm being
wanted to?
honest. Like honestly, I felt like if I would have got into the Ivy League school, because my mama had me applying to like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and I just knew that's not where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be at Howard or Spelman since like the fourth grade. It was actually Spelman that used to be my first choice all the time. But once I really like confirmed that I was going to school for business, I knew that I was going to Howard. Simple. I
Mhm.
had been seeing that since the 10th grade. It was like this picture. If we scrolled down on my mom's Instagram, I'm right there with my Howard sweatshirt on for I think it was like college day. I knew I was going to Howard though. Simple. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, Villanova, Temple, those were definitely in my thoughts. Cause it was like, oh, these are they got great programs too. But I knew I needed to be at a HBCU.
Yeah.
Simple. It was no question. I just felt like though, with like me getting a gay scholarship, let me had got into an Ivy League, it would have been so much pressure just from so many other people trying to get in my ear like that's where I need to be. Where I knew where I needed to be. I needed to be at HBCU. I hear far too many times other people always talk about if only I would have went to a HBCU. I regret not going to a HBCU. And I wasn't about to be one of those people saying it when I knew where I wanted to be. And
Me and my wife say it every day.
see, that's what I'm talking about. I needed to be at it. That's what I'm talking about. Like, and don't get me wrong, I give the Ivy Leagues a lot of credit and a lot of credibility. Like, no shame in my game against y'all, but I'm just not the one for y'all. It's a lot of people that are though, just not me. Have a great
Yeah,
time, and I'll see y'all at the top. And that's just
absolutely.
it. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we have about 4 minutes left, right? And so I'll quickly get back to Gen Z. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z, I'm greatly invested in the Gen Z. I personally love Gen Z, almost wish I was born in the Gen Z.
Yeah, this the generation
I
to be
really do
born
think
in.
y'all are dope, right? Like y'all got a lot of spunk. Y'all got,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm invested in Gen Z. So one thing that I want to do before we get off, I've told you this. I personally, with Focus Youth Network, want to support. I know that you have a college event coming up,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So I personally want to support that, and so we're going to pledge $250 to whatever it is
Thank you.
that is to purchase supplies
Yes, thank
or
you.
anything like that. So that's the first thing. As I said, I love Gen Z and believe that you guys are the future. So that's the first thing.
Thank you so
And
much. We very much appreciate that one.
definitely, definitely. And so as we finish, finish up, I want to see if you can share a little bit about the city, some of the things that you want to, the problems that you want to solve in our city. I know that you were on
Mhm.
I think Power 99 a while ago, and people always talk about gun violence and things like that, but
I feel like it's so much bigger than that though, and that's what
yeah,
people don't even understand.
it
Like,
is.
don't get me wrong, gun violence is a problem, but nah, the real problem is the fact that everybody thinks that it's the gun violence is like this big thing, when in reality, it's the fact that they continue to invest on the back end rather than the front end. So now the back end is putting more police into the streets. They're arresting, and I'm investing into like correctional centers, into actual jails. I
Mhm.
literally live right near Fernwood. I'm seeing them build more cemeteries there as we speak. That's the back end. When in reality, if you invested in the front end, so those are the smaller nonprofits, the local nonprofits inside of the communities, the actual school system, just programming for these youth to have places to turn to. When you have a group of youth that don't know what to do, that sometimes their generation before them didn't guide them the right way. They don't have always the trustworthy parents that lead them or led them to what they need to do, and they just turn to the streets. The streets don't love anybody, but people that they only have the streets to turn to, they're not trying to hear that. So now, when you have a lack of those smaller nonprofits trying to come in and create change, like I forgot, I had to break it down to somebody the other day. They was like, "You really think you could create change? It's not about just me creating change. It's about teaching these youth that they're bigger than what they've been shown that they're bigger than." And that's just it.
Absolutely.
If only you could get into these youth, you can help them, you can teach them, you could keep money in their pockets, and you can educate them. Literally, I mean, 50 is not the biggest, and I'm working on increasing that number. But my 50 youth, we incentivizing them for learning about the workforce, helping them get their certification in CPR first aid. If they need apparel for an interview, not only are we taking you to get it, but we paying for that too. But we're
Yeah.
actually guiding them, not holding their hand, but showing them the way and the proper way to go. And that's the problem. It's not enough people doing that. If only everybody was trying to do that. Everybody was getting in the communities, trying to fix it up, holding these kids' hands and taking them to that step and showing them the way that they need to go and the path that they need to be. I'm not saying that we need more me's, but it would be
Yeah.
more me's.
Yeah.
Simple. It would be more
Absolutely.
people from Philly trying to start their own nonprofits, because that would be the trend. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be a trend to, take a trip after trip, buy your Gucci shoes and ball out. Nah. Take that money that you getting and let's invest it in the community, and let's see what we could do then. Because that's how I've been moving since I was 13. And I'm
No, I
not
don't,
saying
I don't
again
want
that
to
we
cut you
need.
off because I feel
Mhm.
the passion,
I'm
right?
sorry, this one,
No,
yes.
it's
I'm not
okay.
like, I
I
will
know
keep
I
talking.
shouldn't have, I
So
shouldn't
yeah,
have waited to
you
the
should
end
not
for
have waited to the end for that one. I'm like, yeah,
that.
no, that's one I will keep going about too. But yes,
Yes, and
that's
so
it.
listen, we are coming down to the end, but I thank you so much for
Thank you.
going to continue this conversation. Thank y'all so much for joining Youth Uncut, and we'll see you next time.